Today we brought out a nice selection of the types of cars that we convert. We've got 3 Lamborghinis and 1 Audi R8. The R8 is a special edition GT example in Samoa Orange. We've got an LP640 Murciélago. We have a 2012 Lamborghini Performante Spider, and we have a 2013 Superleggera. So we'll start with the Superleggera and talk about some of the features of these different cars that stand apart from a standard variation. Now, this example of the Superleggera is Arancio Argos paint, and in the direct sunlight, which we don't have currently, it has a very sharp metallic pearl in it that really sets it apart from the other colors. On your screen, it may be showing as almost more of a red shade in the cloudiness, but in direct sunlight, it really has a color that pops, and we can show you some photos of what that looks like if we don't get any good sunlight today. All right, so on a standard Gallardo, you're gonna have mostly leather interior. Some of them came with the Q Citrus stitching, also known as diamond stitching. The Superleggera, however, comes with a solid one-piece carbon fiber door card. It comes with Alcantara trim on the dashboard, the headliner, the side sill entry, and generally the seats. Now, there were 2 seat options in the US for the Superleggera and the Performante. One would have been the standard comfort seats, which are reclinable and fully adjustable. The other option is the sport bucket seat or the racing seat, which is what this car is equipped with. And this car also has the matching blood orange stitching and some other orange accents in the interior as well. This car, we've done a manual conversion on, and from a practical perspective, it's going to match a factory manual car. We use factory parts, and so it's going to be virtually identical to what this car would have come from the factory. That goes the same for pretty much all these cars. Now, one feature on this car that most of the Superleggeras and Performantes were not optioned with is the carbon ceramic brakes, and this car does come equipped with the carbon ceramic brakes, which for a street car, I'm personally a fan of because you don't have to wash your wheels so much. All right, we'll move down here to this Performante Spider. Now, this is the textbook Arancio Borealis. Arancio Borealis was the shade on the V10 cars. This car has also been manual swapped and comes equipped with the sport bucket seats. The bucket seats, I will say, have a very specific seating position. It's much like the 911 GT cars. It tilts you more forwards in a more alert race position. So if comfort is a concern for you, you may want to take that into consideration and at least test fit them before you purchase a car that has them if you're not quite sure, because it suits me very well. I'm not a very big person. I think the bigger you are, especially on a Spider like this, because there's even less room inside the Spider than on the coupes, you're going to want to make sure that you can fit in it before you commit to buying one of these cars. But this car also has been manual swapped by us. Fantastic car. It's not the most highly optioned example, but it is one of the most pristine examples. This car only has 4,000 miles on it, so it basically looks like it just rolled off the showroom floor. It's the only LP Gallardo that I've encountered that doesn't have a factory backup camera built into it, which I find that interesting. I'm not really sure why it wouldn't have been optioned that way, considering the sticker price on this car. I think the starting price on the Performante was like $270 or $280, something like that. So it already has a very high sticker. So to shave off what would have been $200 worth of camera equipment seems kind of silly, but it is what it is, I guess. But yes, another fantastic example of a Gallardo, and pretty much if you have to have a Spider, this is the pinnacle of what you get. Now, with the Superleggera, personally, the Superleggera is the pinnacle for me. It's the peak of what you can get out of a Gallardo in terms of reliability. This is an LP car. It has the Audi drivetrain, the 5.2 V10 in it, which tends to be a bit more reliable than the 5-liter Lambo V10 that came in the pre-LP cars. They did make other iterations of this car that could be considered more aggressive, more race-oriented, like the Super Trofeo Stradale. However, personally, we've converted several Super Trofeo Stradales. I find them to be fantastic cars, but they are much more difficult to live with. For example, on all my cars, when I drive these cars, whenever I park them and the engine is hot, I always open the rear engine cover, the rear hatch cover. On the Super Trofeo Stradale, it's a latch unit and it doesn't have a hatch strut. So to take the engine cover off, you have to physically put it somewhere else. And for me, that would become frustrating very quickly because I want to just be able to pop it open, run into, a restaurant or wherever, if I'm on a trip, let it cool off a little bit and then just close it back up and move on with my trip. But this car does all of that. It doesn't have as aggressive of a suspension setup as the Super Trofeo Stradale. It's more than enough for it to be track capable still. But it's not unnecessarily brutal on the street when you're driving it like the Super Trofeo Stradale. So personally, this is my favorite iteration of the Gallardo for that reason. All right, let's move on to my LP640. This is my personal car. This is in Arancio Atlas, which is the V12 shade of that color. These two colors are similar shades, but this being the Borealis, it's for the V10 car, and they put the Atlas on the V12 car. This has a 3-stage paint that is very difficult to copy. But it is one of the most stunning shades of this offered on this color, in my opinion, and one of the most classic colors as well. This car has my manual conversion on it using OEM parts. Some of the parts on this car are aftermarket parts, like the copper shift gate and the shift knob, custom shift knob. But outside of that, the majority of the parts on this car are going to be factory parts. There's a story behind it. It was previously owned by Sir Mix-a-Lot. He was technically the second owner of this car after he traded his Ferrari 430 plus cash for this car when it had 800 miles on it. So very young at the time, but he drove this car. It was featured in the music video Cars, and many other videos that have been captured when he's taken them out to shows in the Seattle area, shows in other car meets and things in the Seattle area. But this car is fairly well documented and has gone through some different hands that you would probably recognize or be familiar with. Okay, so let's move on to, surprisingly, my favorite of these cars, the R8 GT. Now, looking at these 4 cars together, most people would look at this car as being the underdog. It has more of an understated appeal to it, not quite the same curb appeal, not quite the same flashiness. If you're not a flashy person, if you don't have time to stop and talk to the 1,000 people that are going to stop and talk to you when you go anywhere in a Lamborghini, especially a bright orange one, the R8 is the ticket for that, because this car is every bit as capable as the 2 Gallardos are. However, it remains understated. It flies under the radar, but it still has great curb appeal. It's still a very attractive car. In my opinion, it's the better looking between it and the Gallardo. That's subjective, of course, but I've always been a fan of the R8s, and my dad and I both have R8s as well, and we like to do events and things in them together. So that's just something that we use for bonding. But now the R8 GT, this car is Samoa Orange. And Samoa Orange was the launch color for the R8 GT. It's an interesting shade, and when you pair it up with Skittles colors on a Lambo, it doesn't quite pop in the same way. However, much like the Arancio Argo Superleggera, when the sunlight is out, it has a very brilliant metallic flake that really shows up and makes the car look much more orange and much less like a hot dog. This car is very well equipped. It had many options that you could option. Things that weren't options that came on the GT standard that didn't come standard on any other car would be this double carbon fiber front lip, the gray accents on the front grills, the front canard, carbon fiber canards. What was an option on this car is the carbon ceramics. The rear engine cover on this car is 1-piece carbon fiber, and which we're going to show you, and it has direct vents that feed over the roof into the airbox. Now, most standard R8s are going to feed the air from this side blade, and it has a series of duct work that runs and filters all the way into the side. Now on this air box, there's a block off plate, and it feeds the air directly in through this vent and down into the air box. It's a one-piece carbon fiber design. It's supposed to weigh 17 pounds less. I haven't personally weighed them, but I don't believe that the US spec cars got the lighter weight glass like the European cars. But I will say it's possible, especially on the rear cover, because a standard R8 is going to have the defroster built into the rear glass, and this car does not. It has the radio built into the rear upright glass, but not on the rear engine cover. It doesn't have the defrosters built in at all. So the glass is somewhat lighter. I just don't know if it's the lightweight glass that came standard on the European cars that's often advertised. I think a lot of these cars didn't come with any different glass, but I don't know for sure. But it's supposed to be about 17 pounds less. This car, again, only 4,000 miles on it, so it's a very, very clean example. The GT came standard with the matte carbon fiber in the engine bay. The stationary fixed wing was not optional. It was standard. This wing weighs, I think we weighed it, it's just under 5 pounds. It's incredibly light. It's true dry carbon. The GT tail lights pretty much only came on the GT. There were a couple of other variations. There was a special edition in the US called the Executive Package, I believe it was. And it came with GT tail lights. I think they were all white with black and red interior. But for the most part, they're known as GT taillights. The rear bumper, this is a carbon composite rear bumper. It's lighter than the standard plastic bumpers, and it has these brake ducts built into them. The diffuser is a more aggressive and carbon fiber version that only fits on the GT rear bumper. And then it came with the round exhaust tips and the gray trim on the bumper. So that's kind of what sets it apart on the exterior. Matte carbon fiber would have been standard. These wheels were actually an option. The Trident wheels are the standard GT wheels, and if you didn't like the Trident wheels and you wanted to essentially downgrade to the standard wheel, like the split 5 spokes, you had to pay $600 extra. So this car shows on the sticker that he paid an extra $600 to get the base model wheels because he didn't want the Trident wheels. Now the carbon fiber on this entry sill is an option. What the only part that wasn't an option was that it would have this design on it and say R8 GT. Now this is a 2-option side sill. It's carbon fiber and it's illuminated. Both of those were options, and you could get one without the other, or you could get neither on the GT, but this one has them both optioned. This does not have the enhanced leather package, which would have made the entire door card, the entire dashboard, and all of the surrounding cabin trim in Napa leather. But you would have lost the Alcantara inserts on the coupes. The only way that you could get the Alcantara inserts on a coupe in the US is if you did not get the enhanced leather package, which was like a $9,000 option on this car. So a lot of people didn't option it because they wanted the Alcantara seat inserts. There's some other trim interior pieces that are different between them, between the two packages, but this one has the base package. It has this material on the door, which is like a vinyl with a pattern in it. And it looks better on, in my opinion, it looks better on these cars than on a standard R8 because the entire door card material is the same. Whereas on a standard R8, it would just be this part that was that vinyl and the bottom would still be Napa. And the contrast between the two makes it stand out more. With this not having any contrast and it's all the same material, it looks like it was designed and designated for this car. It just looks better in my opinion. Now, the carbon fiber, the door trim, the monoposto, which is the swoosh over the dash, inside console pieces, the knee piece, and then the center console and the piece on top of the parking brake handle. Those are all carbon fiber. And if you option the car, you could have paint matched or paint contrasted components on the interior as well. And I believe on this car, if you wanted the carbon fiber center console, it was about $1,800. But if you wanted a paint matched version, they took the carbon fiber console, painted over it, and then charged you $1,100 instead of $1,800. So it's actually possible, and we're going to do this for this client. We're going to take out those console pieces that are paint matched, and we're going to strip the paint off, and we're going to have them re-cleared over the carbon fiber so that he can have the carbon fiber versions instead of the painted versions. Just some small details. And then one last detail on the interior, most of these cars came standard with the Alcantara steering wheel. You could pay extra to option it with leather or perforated leather, but standard it came with Alcantara. And then they all came with the white face gauges with the GT emblem on the right gauge as well. So that's pretty much it. And then again, this example is one that we've already completed a manual conversion on. We completed a manual conversion on this car back in February, I believe, and sent it back to our client, Quattro Motorsports up in Massachusetts. We have done a number of cars for them. They are on top of the most collectible examples of these cars. And the gentleman who has purchased this car from that dealership had a number of customizations that he wanted us to execute, which include going through the interior, eliminating most of the plastic, replacing it with Alcantara covered components, some leather covered components with the matching signal orange stitching. And he also wants us to install the V8 R8 transmission, which has a shorter final drive ratio and some other different gearing changes. Makes it rev a little bit quicker down low. So we'll be doing all of that as well. And some other custom setups to the pedal in these cars, because the clutch pedal is not adjustable, but I can make it adjustable, which helps dial in the clutch pedal feel a little bit better. But anyway, so these cars are all, in my opinion, these are the peak examples of these cars. What this car goes for is on par, price-wise, is on par with the Performante and the Superleggera right now, and should be. I know a lot of people look at the R8 as, again, the underdog, or not as aggressive of a car, but most of my clients that prefer the R8 are like me. We don't care to be flashy. We don't want to show off. We don't want the attention that it draws. We just want all of the fun stuff that comes with it. And that's pretty much what you're getting out of a GT. Now, suspension wise, the GT's suspension is different versus any other iteration. It has a Bilstein shock and a Eibach spring that it is height adjustable all the way around. So you can actually dial in the ride height of this car as much as you want. It's for all intents and purposes, it is a coilover setup, which handles and performs very, very well. It handles great, but also rides great. This is the most comfortable car still, even though this is Audi's race version of this car, at least for the US. It's the most comfortable by far car to drive out of all of them, and still handles every bit as well as either of the Gallardos do. So that is these awesome cars in a nutshell. Shifts great, drives great.